Hey everybody, welcome back to the Learnologist channel. My name is Johnny, and today we will be going through some more advanced JavaScript concepts. Just following up on our previous video on for loops and conditional statements. We're going to be doing a problem that's pretty famous in the programming world. It's called the FizzBuzz problem. So we'll be going through the steps to sort of understand what's being asked of us, what the problem actually is, and then we'll go ahead and solve it and sort of explain along the way how things are working out. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so we're going to want to pull up our terminal here and make sure that we're in the JavaScript practice folder that we created in the last video. And to make sure that we're in the correct folder and that we are looking at the correct files, if I navigate over to this folder and do ls to list out the folders for the files, we should just see the index.js file that we created last time, and here it is. And if you want to open up VS Code, you can do code dot, and that should open up all of the files inside the JavaScript practice folder. Okay, so today we are going to actually create a new file. And we can even call it fizz-buzz.js. So touch is the command to create a new file, and then fizzbuzz.js, so it will get created inside the JavaScript practice folder. So I'll hit enter, I'll hit ls, and that will show us the new file right here. And then if I click back into VS Code, it should now be there. So cool, looks like we're good. So we can open up the FizzBuzz file here, and just to make sure that it's working, we can do console.log, and we can say hello from FizzBuzz, and I'll hit save. And then if I come over here, I can do node and then fizzbuzz.js. Hit enter, and it says hello from FizzBuzz. Nice. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to want to do is actually sort of, I guess, define what the FizzBuzz problem is. So we'll be writing a function here. It's going to take in a list of numbers as an argument. So that's going to be an array of numbers. And then it's going to output either fizz or buzz, depending on whether each individual number is odd or even. So an example, for example, a list of 7 numbers will have 7 outputs. There will be some fizz, there will be some buzz, you know, there will be a mix of everything, but there should be 7 output. And if you have a list of 4 numbers, and there will be 4, etc., etc. Okay, so if we remember from our previous lesson, the way you can define things in JavaScript, you can say, for example, const, and you can give the function a name. We'll just say FizzBuzz. Okay, and we can say equals. We'll make it an arrow function because we love arrows. And we can say list of numbers here. Okay, so what we've done is we've defined a constant called FizzBuzz. It is a function, and it takes in a list of numbers, and it outputs nothing right now. So you can have it do console.log FizzBuzz function if you'd like. And then now if I run this file here, you'll notice that it doesn't output anything. And that is because although we've defined the function and we've written a console log statement, it is not actually calling the function. So it's not triggering the function. It's just simply basically bringing it into existence. It's breathing it into existence, but it's not actually doing anything with it. So yeah, so what we need to do if we wanted to see it work is we would call FizzBuzz here and use parentheses. When you use parentheses, you trigger the actual function. So now if you do this again, you'll see it outputs FizzBuzz function. And if we do it, let's say twice, it will output it twice, and so on. Okay, so now instead of console logging FizzBuzz function, why don't we have it console log list of numbers, right? Now when I call it, it doesn't output anything, it's undefined. Why is it undefined? Well, because we didn't pass in a list of numbers here. You can, if you want, set a default value for any variable in a function. So if I save this, now it should output an empty array instead, and boom, it does. Likewise, if I did like 1, 2, 3, and then I did that, it would output 1, 2, 3. So we can do an empty array here if we'd like. That's just for if you write a function and it's not always going to have input and you don't want it to be undefined, you do want it to have some sort of default value, then you can pass in or you can define the variable here, the argument's name, and assign it a default value. So we'll just use an empty array, I guess, because we're going to be looping through it. So you don't want to have an undefined array. That can just cause some extra problems, because how are you going to loop through something that doesn't exist, right? Okay, so now that we have our function defined, let's go ahead and I guess just loop through the variable and just see what it looks like here. So we can do start our for loop here. Now, if you're not familiar with for loops, we did cover that in the last lesson. I'll go over it a little bit here, but I would refer you, I'll link the previous lesson, somewhere on screen here. And yeah, you're welcome to go watch that video. It should give you a good refresher on these, as well as some if conditions. Okay, so we'll say list of numbers here instead of array.length. And then we'll say console.log, oops, sorry folks, console.log. And now here, we're going to use this console log to check against our list of numbers, just to see what the value is. So we'll do console.log list of numbers. So now every time it goes through this list of numbers, like if this list of numbers is, say, 5 items long, then it's going to keep going until index, which is incremented by 1 every time we loop through. It will keep going until index is no longer less than 5. So yeah, we'll make a smaller array here to start. We'll just go with our 1, 2, 3 array that we used before. So we should see it print out list of numbers 3 times. And if we look, there it is, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now that we have that, we can go a little bit further and say, like, okay, let's see what the index is. This will just be 0, 1, 2, I think. Yep. And that is because it starts at 0 and then it increments by 1 each time. Okay, so last thing we can do here, just to make sure that we're looping correctly, and you don't have to do this every time. I'm more just doing this so that you can sort of see how this guy works and get a little bit of a refresher. But yeah, so this should list out the numbers inside of the array now. This is the first index number in the array, this is the second, and this is the third. And if I change these numbers to like 1, 3, 7, just to make it a little bit easier to tell, and you print it out again, there you go, 1, 2, 7. Not 1, 3, 7. I can change that to 3 though. And we'll do it one more time. 1, 3, 7. So yeah. So let's make one of these even, because we're going to write a condition for evens and odds. And yeah, basically what we're going to want to do is we're going to do if some stuff, do some stuff, and then we'll do else, do some other stuff, right? So if you remember from before, there's different ways to tell if numbers are odd and even. If you just think about numbers in general, there's a specific number that every even number is divisible by, and that would be the number 2. So there's actually a function or a thing you can use in JavaScript. It's called modulo. It's the % symbol. And it's basically like doing a division, except the modulo gives you the remainder. So the remainder is like if you do 4 divided by 2, then the remainder there would be 0. But if you do 5 divided by 2, it's going to be 2 times that 2 goes into 5, and then it's going to be remainder 1. So modulo 5 divided by 2, or I think it's 5 modulo 2, and I'll correct myself in a second here. But 5 modulo 2 should give you 1 because there's a remainder of 1 there. So any number that's modulo 2 and gives you a result of 0, that would be an even number. So here we can say if list of numbers and use the index, right? So that's going to give us the 1, the 4, and the 7. So if list of numbers index modulo 2 equals 0, we'll say fizz if the number is even, right? So we'll do console.log fizz, string fizz, and then else. So basically, if it's not even, which would mean if it's odd, then we'll say console.log buzz. So in this first example, it should say buzz, fizz, buzz. And if we run this, boom, buzz, fizz, buzz. So yeah, that's pretty much just the FizzBuzz problem. You can try it with, always good to try it with different use cases. So in this case, let's do like 0. That's a good one. We'll see what happens. Oh, that second time it printed out fizz. So 2 modulo 0, or 0 modulo 2, looks like it equals 0. So that's good. So that'll give us our FizzBuzz problem. I hope that you guys learned something from this video, and yeah, you know, if you feel like you did, please feel free to leave a like, subscribe if you do feel like you learned something or got something from this video, and of course, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.